Hi everybody. I'm just hopping in here to do this quick video because there's been a trend in the group that I want to talk to you guys about because it's really wasting, I'm afraid that it's wasting a lot of time for a lot of kids. I don't know exactly what's going on, but we were talking with my students. I was talking with one of my students in our Zoom last week about this phenomenon. I have been noticing in the groups a lot of parents coming in having done a year of chelation, 2 years of chelation, of detox, heavy metal detox, and in all that time their children still aren't talking and they haven't investigated and they haven't done anything. They're asking for help for language, and it's really bothering me a little bit because language is supposed to come on a lot sooner. If detox is going to fix the issues with language, it responds a lot faster than that. So I was making this comment in the group, and one of my students mentioned a possible source for some of this, and I went there and I looked at, there was actually a pyramid, like a biomed pyramid, and chelation or clearing heavy metals was one of the foundations of it, but addressing language was way at the top of the pyramid. And so it's not surprising to me then that if addressing language is one of the last things that is viewed, that is looked at from that perspective, then people are doing massive amounts of detox before thinking that that's going to happen. And it's not the case. So I want to get in here and I want to talk about that. Language that is going to be fixed or addressed by detox, it responds within the first month, but certainly within the first 10 rounds. And what I mean by respond is that it will, you'll see changes in language. You'll see attempts to speak. So if you have a child who's nonverbal or pre-verbal, what you'll see is that they'll start to make attempts at sounds, and then language will develop. They'll start to form those into syllables, form them into one-syllable words, and it'll just keep compounding. It might not be really quick at first, but it will respond. So they're not going to go from nothing to speaking full sentences in the first 10 rounds, but you're going to see them play with language in ways that they haven't. If you don't see some kind of response, some kind of positive response on that level, if you don't see language building and you're 10 rounds in, you need to be looking in another direction. You don't need to wait for chelation to fix that problem. You need to see what else might be interfering. And typically, if detox doesn't result in any kind of response, we're probably looking at some kind of abnormal electrical activity in the brain, and you need to go get that checked out. You need to go and make an appointment with your regular doctor, family doctor. They may refer you to a neurologist to get an EEG. The EEG that we recommend is a 24-hour EEG because you're not necessarily looking for active seizures. If you found them, you may not find them in the 20 minutes that they have your child hooked up to those electrodes. So it might take a little longer to determine whether or not there's actually active seizures happening. Sometimes they're happening at night. But even in the case where there's not active seizures, an EEG, when language is being inhibited by abnormal electrical activity, the EEG does pick that up. It won't necessarily show a seizure, and so parents will often get told that everything's normal. Everything looks fine, it's normal. If you get a copy of that interpretive report, though, you'll tend to see some kind of abnormality mentioned. Not seizures, but there may be something in the alpha waves or the beta waves. There may be something in background noise. There may be different things like this mentioned. Typically it'll say needs clinical correlation or something of that nature. So that indicates that they did not find an actual spike in terms of seizure activity, but even in cases where there's not apparent seizures, sometimes anti-epileptic drugs can bring on language. So there's actually a study that was done on that, and I'll link it so you guys can download that and maybe take it in to see if you can get some cooperation on it. But I wanted to talk about that aspect a little bit in terms of, what that means and the fact that, yes, detox will eventually, hopefully, if metals are at the root of that, clear those out. But things can be happening. Our children are growing. We have to understand our children are developing. Their brains are developing. Connections are being made. And they're being made right now today. They're not waiting for you to clear the metals out to start making connections. Their brains are developing now in its current state, whether that's toxic or not toxic. So we need to do what's in our power to be able to help it form connections. The sooner the better. So not waiting 1 to 2 years to see something and then at the end of that find out that you're not actually seeing the kind of results that you were looking for. There's no response to language at all. That should not happen. That should not happen. If there's not a response in the beginning, chelation by itself, detox, heavy metal detox, is not going to bring on that language by itself. So I just want to make it clear that it is not something that should be put off to the end. It's not something that you should not worry about until after you've done a significant amount of detox. It doesn't belong at the tippy top of the pyramid. It belongs right down there at the bottom. Investigating those things belong right down there at the bottom. Now, granted, in our course and in our book, we talk a little bit about different things that can help language. And I don't want to go into each and every one of those, but I did want to get this out there. I hope that parents understand that that's not the proper order to look at language. The other thing that you might consider, the other presentation that we can see with seizure kids or kids with abnormal electrical activity, is that they will respond. You will see some attempts at language in the very beginning, the first few rounds. You may see them trying to speak or trying to say words, and then you completely lose that skill. So it goes away, goes back to base, and you don't see anything else. If that's what you're seeing, that's another indication. So if language is responding to detox, you will see a progression continue. You will see it continue to move forward. You don't see language coming on and then going away entirely. You will see small improvements that will build on each other step by step. That's a situation that is a typical response to detox when that is what's at the root cause of the language issues. When that's the only thing interfering, you will see that. If you see that peekaboo language where you see a few great words and you think, oh, we finally found that thing that's going to do it, and then it goes away completely, that's another indicator that you need to go and look into getting an EEG. And a lot of times these kids respond to all biomed treatments like that, a change in diet, an additional supplement, starting any new protocol. You'll see something really, really promising in the very beginning, and then they'll go all the way back to baseline. And this often is repeated in children who have some kind of abnormal electrical activity. So hopefully this helps clear that up a little bit. I hope that you guys are able to take this information and act on it. I will link that study that I was talking about so that you can look at it and print it up and possibly start a conversation with your doctor if you feel that it's appropriate for your child. Thanks for listening, and again, so happy to have you guys on this journey, and I just hope the information is helpful. Take care.